Hello and welcome to You and the Law, where we examine the legal issues shaping our lives. I am Umudu. Today we discuss one of the most contested questions in criminal justice, perhaps around the world really, but we will localize it. Should the Gambia keep the death penalty? The issue has returned to public debate really following recent calls from certain members of the National Assembly that we revisit the moratorium, amid growing concerns over recent crime. So is capital punishment a necessary tool of justice, or is it incompatible with the rights to life and modern human rights standards? What does Gambian law actually provide? Where does the country go from here? Joining me is Mr. Emmanuel Daniel Juf, chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission. Mr. Juf, welcome to You and the Law.
Thank you very much, Momodu.
Absolutely.
And happy to be here.
Again, thank you very much. You've been here before, so you're becoming a regular.
Yes.
Thanks. So, this is it. One wonders, why does the death penalty generate so much public interest, especially after a period of serious crime?
Yeah. And you started, I think you're very right. It's currently it's one of the most contested issue because it actually evokes a lot of emotion. There has been rise in crime as reported in the papers, and actually stabbings resulting in deaths. Naturally, when these things happen, in every society, people will talk about law and order. And naturally, also, some people will feel that the death penalty should be the punishment because it will deter. At least this is the way people believe. Some people believe it will deter. Some people believe that's the natural punishment. If you take somebody's life, as they call it, the law of Moses.
Yes.
An eye for an eye.
Yeah.
So, but in the Gambia, really, recently, the debate has been that, one, we should, you mentioned the issue of the moratorium, which we'll talk about.
Yes.
Because when the president, in 2018, President Barrow, put in a moratorium on, that means that anybody who has been convicted of murder or an offense that carries the death penalty. That is, in our laws, it's murder, treason, and I think acts of terrorism relating to death, something like that. So anybody convicted will not be punished by death. They will, in effect, it will be commuted to, for example, life imprisonment. And but recently, I think it was not an issue, especially in 2018, when we were just coming from the era of Yahya Jammeh. It looked as if, yes, this is the right way to go. But the government did only do that. There's something else the government do that people don't perhaps know. They also ratified a convention called the International Covenant on Civil and Protocol. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights Optional Protocol. Mm-hmm. Any state that ratifies that convention treaty, you're obliged by law to remove the death penalty in your books. So what President Barrow...
We will get to that.
Yes. So what President Barrow, I think, was doing was just following the course of trying to get the death penalty out. But coming back to the issue, it's not only in Gambia. Usually in most countries, when you have rise in crime, people will retributive justice. Quickly. We tend to have a knee-jerk reaction.
Absolutely.
You see, but this is where also the danger comes in. And we'll try and elaborate why it is dangerous. Yes. But human beings are human beings. When you have a rise in crime, we try to say, okay, the solution is the death penalty. But is it the solution?
Good question. Let's go back.
Yes.
Before you return to the present.
Yes.
Give us the legal history, as it were, of the death penalty in this country.
Yes. So the death penalty, we inherited the criminal justice of the United Kingdom, like most Commonwealth countries. We had the common law, and in 1965, when we became independent, we imported it, and we retained the death penalty in our laws. So during the period in which the first president of the Republic, President Jawara, was the death penalty was in place, but it was hardly ever used. It was only used once throughout From 1965 to 1994, it was used once, and it was the famous case of Mustafa Danso, the army officer. Not the army, we didn't have an army then.
Yes.
It was the field force.
The field force.
He killed the commander, Eko Mahoney, of the field force. But that was not only the thing. After he was convicted in October 1980, he took part in the 1981 attempted coup d'etat. And in fact, people were saying he boasted. I remember as a young boy staying in Perseverance, we were all saying Mustafa Danso was out with his prison uniform and a gun, saying that he is the reason why the coup even happened. But anyway, without going into that story, he was the only one, because he had committed murder. It was not even committed yet. And then here you are taking part, at least allegedly at the time, in a attempted coup d'etat, leading to loss of lives of many Gambians, about 1,000 or more. So he was the only one who faced the death penalty by execution, firing squad, if I remember. So, okay, so during that period, it was in our laws, but it was hardly used. You used to hear that the president, clemency, that was the word, it was commuted. So all those who were convicted had their crimes committed. But even in 1981, after the treason trial, none of those who were convicted with the treason trial, if you remember, the famous lawyer, Papcha Sinseka, was actually convicted of treason, convicted, sentenced, because the treason, the offense was death. But at the long run, Jawara even committed it, and then even pardoned him finally. During the era of Jammeh, he became Minister of Justice and Attorney General. But quickly, the legal process. So in 1993, there was the Death Penalty Abolition Act. So Jawara, during the last year of his, he actually thought that, listen, I'm not using this. And people saw him as the champion of human rights. He just, and the call had started on looking at the death penalty as inhumane, unjust, barbaric. So he was one of the few African countries, African head of state, who actually abolished the death penalty in 1993. So the death penalty was abolished in the Gambia in 1993. In 1994, there was a coup d'etat. The Armed Forces Professional Ruling Council came into power, and they had what was called Decree 52. Decree 52 in 1995, they restored the death penalty. So what Jammeh did, and he said at the time that I am bringing back the death penalty because of the rise in crime and as a deterrent. Whether he did a research on it, nobody knows. But, it was populist. He brought it back. And of course, quickly followed by a constitution in 1997, which also recognized the death penalty. Saying that it was recognized so long as it's in our laws, but so long as, of course, that it resulted in cause of death and injection of substances, those kind of things. So it was there, but limited. But even there, those convicted were not. The death penalty was not actually used until 2012 under Jammeh, formally. Now the TRRC has told us that extrajudicial killings, but that is not as a conviction. But in the courts, it was the only people who were executed were, if you remember, the death row 9, in 2012. They were executed. And of course, it brought in a lot of uproar, because I think one of those who was going through an appeal system. But, and it raises the, why did Jammeh choose? Was it ritualistic, if you remember? So it became a big uproar. But just to tell you that during this period, our legal history, it was there, but hardly used. So since independence, only 10 were actually, they had the death penalty used on them, or, executed, execution of the death penalty. So
the Barrow era.
The Barrow era. It wasn't the law. Decree 52, as I mentioned, became the law. But interestingly, our Constitution of 1997 stated at Section 18.3 that although it was recognizing it then, within 10 years, the National Assembly should review the law of relating to the death penalty. They should have now reviewed Section 52, which became the Decree 52 of the Criminal Offence Act, to see whether actually it was desirable. But our National Assembly never did. But Barrow came in goodwill 2018, as I've mentioned. He said, okay, you know what? There is a moratorium on the death penalty. This was an era of human rights. when he came to power, of course, the people like the Jews and everybody were talking about, due process now. Let us, So Barrow did that. But not only did President Barrow, as I said, the National Assembly ratified the optional protocol, which obliges states, once you ratify, to go to your books and remove. Okay, so the debate has been on. And I think if you gauge it, a lot of Gambians most likely want the death penalty. But I said it's a knee-jerk reaction, because if you look at the studies, but we'll probably...
We'll go to that. So now we've got the legal framework.
Not yet complete. Let me just complete it.
That's it, yes.
Yes. So in 2025, this, incidentally, a lot of people don't know this, because when I wrote the other day, somebody wrote back and told me, no, it's just a moratorium. But it's in our laws. I said no. If you look at the Criminal Offences Act of 2025, look at section 155 and section 156 for murder. Again, the offense of murder is there, but it says anybody convicted of this offense will be sentenced to life imprisonment. So I think this is settled right now. This is where we are. So, but just maybe to clarify further, currently you'll find judges who are still sentencing people to death. But because those offenses, they were charged with the offenses before the coming into effect of the 2025 Act. So if you hear it now, it's because the person was charged with that. But if it is an offense charged right now, in 2025 March, after the Act was assented to, you cannot have. It's removing, the judges will not have the powers anymore.
Absolutely.
So I know this will cause a lot of anger, but now we will, perhaps this is the opportunity now to look at
Actually, I read
pros and cons.
I read that in the papers. I think, was it Justice Ibrahim Ajaita,
yes,
who sentenced recently, somebody was sentenced to death, and he explained that this crime was committed in 2023.
Okay. So you see,
already applied. Some of us who read the papers, we know this is actually the situation now.
Because I got a lot of abuse.
Yes. So
when I try to explain
this, it's like you can't. According to the law, you can't.
What is he talking about?
Yeah. This is not about the moratorium. Now, let's go to the human rights dimension.
Yes.
This is primarily framed as a human rights issue.
No,
why is that?
It is framed as a human rights issue because it involves the right to life. So when we say the right to life, yes, it's talking about the state protecting Momodu, myself, and everybody from their life being taken from them arbitrarily. So if somebody takes your life, the state should protect you, should make sure that that person is prosecuted and punished. And in fact, the state must, through the police, the system that they have, make sure that crime is actually, murders don't take place. So it's a right to life. The right to life is a basic fundamental human right. But over the years, it has actually not only been framed as the right to life of only the victims, but also even the perpetrator. Is it right for a state to use inhumane? So now the debate has been, again, I'm sure people will say, what is he talking about? But I'm just giving you the human rights dimension and framing. Is it right for the state really to use execution as a punishment? It is inhumane. Are there other forms of punishment? But not only that, Modu. You have that aspect of the right to life, that is the dignity of life. Killing, executions are ugly. But not only that, the criminologists, but not only criminologists, have looked at done research to see is the death penalty really a deterrent?
Absolutely, we'll come to that. That's one of the segments we are going to cover. But this is the key. This is the key here, isn't it?
But I'll still maybe
you'll go back.
talk about human rights still.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. No,
because here, really, isn't it? Here we have essentially two questions, isn't it? The moral one, the crime or the punishment should be proportionate to the crime. People think like that. You killed somebody, well, the state kills you. They see that as just. But the empirical, if you can put it that way, point is that it doesn't necessarily deter. Most of it says that. But what about the moral argument? How do you deal with that? People want severe punishments for murders.
And interestingly, the moral argument shifts from time to time. If I tell you today that 2/3 of the world do not countries are removing the death penalty because they feel that it's immoral. We can keep people in jail. As I speak to you, by the time Jawara was removing it from our statute book, he was one of very few countries. Maybe I'm only about 4 or 5 African countries. Today you have 25, including Gambia, 26 countries in Africa, and most of the countries. But so the people are feeling now, countries, governments are beginning to feel that, listen, do we really need to have to go through executions, lethal injection? Can we have other forms of punishment like life imprisonment? So the debate is still out there. But the moral issue, and also studies from, if you look at the League Against Death Penalty, Amnesty International, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the human rights debate has moved towards saying, listen, it's really, if you're talking about the sanctity of life, it's not just for the victims, of course, but of the sanctity of life for everybody. Should we have this as a punishment? Like, would you want to go and, for example, the French used to have the guillotine. Yeah, you put people's head there and chop it. In fact, that's where the word capital punishment came from, Latin, caput. You get rid of head. So, so even European countries like France, I think, was among the last to get to have remove capital punishment in there as a form of punishment in 1981. So, but the morality it's there. People will argue and they will use many different things. Some will use religion. Some will just feel, as I said, this knee-jerk reaction that when somebody kills, you kill and it will solve. But no, let me tell you, if you look at those who commit crimes, criminologists have done studies on it. And even in Gambia, right now, the number of stabbings, you look at it, these young boys who are into drugs, we have a drug problem. We need to tackle the issue as a holistic problem. You know, when people kill, if you study criminology, the impulsive nature of killing, under the influence of drugs and other things, yes, you have people who are just evil. You know, and I think these are the ones that people get very angry that they need to be killed. So just because you have the death penalty, when these people are killing, they don't have it in their minds. Otherwise, in countries like in the United States of America, Nigeria, in fact, in those countries that you have the death penalty, it has not shown that it has brought down the crimes that the death penalty is actually prescribed. And then you look at countries that don't even have the death penalty. Like, look at Canada, for example. It's down. But let's come back even to the Gambia.
Yes.
Despite the fact that we've been talking about it, most of the death, even the time of Jammeh, most of were just commuted.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that it's...
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but the danger also, it is irreversible.
Yes. Wrongful convictions. That's the next one. But here, I just want to push back a bit here. Yes, the drug-induced stuff. But I once asked the police, I said, all these examples we've had, I think it was a whole month or so, about 5 killings. I said, did you identify anything relating to drugs? They couldn't answer that. But then we got a clue from Justice Ibrahim Jaite, who said that he was beginning to see petty disputes between acquaintances.
Yes.
You see, this is the key, leading to that.
Yes.
So maybe it's easy for drugs to be the fall guy. In certain areas, maybe clubs and the like, you may have stuff like that with alcohol, under the influence of alcohol. You can do anything. But so far, a lot of these things are, well, they call it domestic, but among neighbors and petty disputes, somebody goes and runs and does something. So how do you see that?
No, but this is... But if you ask also, they'll tell you that these are the boys that smoke the thing here or take hard drugs or take speed. But also, that's why I said you need a holistic approach to crime. Absolutely. Let us not just knee-jerk without solving the issue. Death penalty, because it's so easy to say, bring back the death penalty, if you kill, we'll kill you. But maybe there's something that is wrong in our fabric, society. We have societal issues here. We have socio-economic issues. The problems, and if we do not tackle, that's why I'm saying we should not have a knee-jerk solution to these problems. Absolutely. Let us look at, that's why I'm saying, just look at, you know, there are studies that are done. Why do people commit crime? That's why I'm saying, if you look at Nigeria, the number of executions that they carry. The other day, they even kidnapped a former IGP who died in custody. I'm just saying, more violent society where you have violent retribution, yet it's creating. I don't have to tell you the stories about the Chibok girls and the killings that happen. So now the danger is this: the irreversible. Once you kill, once you put the punishment, and there's sometimes judicial errors, because once you impose the death penalties, you convict somebody, you kill them. If there was a judicial error, and it has happened, look at death row inmates in America and many countries. In England, if we had time, I could read for you cases where people have been convicted 10 years down the line because at least they are lucky. Maybe the death penalty was not carried out yet. They're exhausting their right to appeal. They discovered that no, especially now with DNA testing, that actually it was not Mr. X who did the killing, it was somebody else. So you have judicial error, but also not only that, states, a lot of countries, Sierra Leone was one of them, and many others, who will use trump-up charges against political opponents, slap them treason. Listen, we even had one similar one, Langton Mongtamba. You know, I can give you examples, and then that's the easiest way to get rid of your opponents because treason also attracts the death penalty. So we need to, and I have to emphasize this because this is where people also miss the point by saying human rights. We don't condone people who commit these crimes should be locked away for good, for life. But not only that, we are saying that the government should give the police the tools, the national tools, the tools and the resources. So that they'll be able to, and they should be properly paid, train them well so that they'll be able to apprehend crime. So this is what we are talking about. We are not saying if you kill, go free, because I saw someone on social media saying, he's only saying that because he has never been a victim or his family. But that's not the issue. This is a mature debate we are having, looking at the causative factor and to see whether, and also looking at the legal, but this is where we are, looking at the legal picture now, the history framework.
It's not in our laws anymore. So this is the key. Some people have even said that perhaps that's the most powerful argument against the death penalty, the possibility of wrongful convictions, and irreversible. There's nothing that one can do. So now this is it. So far, I think we've discussed competing principles, as it were. One is about empirically what works, really what the evidence shows, what we should do, what are the human rights standards. But the other one is really out for revenge, more or less. So citizens out there, I've seen even in our office, young people, when we were reporting these stories about deaths and stabbings, they said the death penalty should come back, death penalty should come back. So how should we think about these competing principles?
No, and that's why I use the term knee-jerk reaction. Because we want quick fix solution. We are human beings. We don't sit back, we don't look at the causative effect. We think that once we have the death penalty, it's either will put fear in the minds of people, or when we use it, people will stop. But that's why I was saying that studies have shown, and that is why now 2/3 of the world, where they were all having that, they're moving away. In fact, we are at the stage where France was in 1981. When France, the government, removed the death penalty, 60% of the population were angry with the government because they wanted it back. Down the line with the discussion, because these are debates, people talk about, you bring facts, you bring evidence. People felt actually there has been a complete change. No, the death penalty, no. Keep them there for life, but the death penalty should not be used. So, but the debate will be there because we're human beings. We can only relate to what we think is right. Unless we are told otherwise. That's why the whole world, there was a particular period in the history of the world, most countries use the death penalty. But even like this, I have a long list here of all the African countries, from the Senegal, they've all removed it from their books. But again, if you ask them, this is the rationale. But none of them is condoning violent crime. Nobody, no human rights organization or institution or chairperson or commissioner is condoning that people who kill others should be set free. No. But these are the many arguments. and you find out in the UK, it has happened, the Guildford 4, the Birmingham 6, convicted of murder. 16 years down the line, it was discovered that the evidence was forged.
Exactly.
And they were released. If the death penalty was still on, they would have been killed. Lang Tombong would have been gone.
Yes.
But of course, in that case, the Supreme Court, commuted. But I'm just saying,
absolutely,
there are many things.
Pap
Chairsin Seka would not have been,
absolutely,
Minister of Justice. I'm just saying that
absolutely,
these are things that we need to have a debate. We need to talk about them so that people can understand. So I understand when people are angry and they have this knee-jerk reaction because they feel that is the solution. But let me tell you, it's not the solution. The studies have shown having the death penalty does not bring down the rate of murder down. You have to have the bigger picture, dealing with your society and look at the causative effect of crime and violent crime.
Absolutely. But again, on the other side, maybe the state or people like the Human Rights Commission and others, perhaps there must be certain reforms that you may implement, I do not know, to strengthen public confidence. In the absence of the death penalty, we'll still be confident that the investigation will go well, the prosecution, and the convictions. Perhaps when people see that, then they will stop thinking about the death penalty, so the confidence in the legal system.
And I agree with you completely, Mr. Mboy. That's why I said, let us not just use knee-jerk, because that is it. And I mentioned that the police should be, their capacity should be built. They should investigate crimes more. They should even prevent crime before happening. That's part of their mandate, so that we'll not even have these crimes. So we need to invest more in that area rather than dealing with it at the end. Let us protect life before it is taken. But just the death penalty itself, that's the end. So, and I just want to tell you that I agree with you. And in fact, this is what the NHRC is advocating. Why do you think I'm talking to you here? Trying to even bring that point across. But of course, we are engaging the security service especially to and the government to do that.
That's it. So finally, if you had one point to make, as it were, to policymakers, all of us, what would it be about the death penalty?
Let us take a holistic approach on the issue of violent crime in this country. It is a problem. We cannot sweep it under the carpet. And then we need to really be serious about tackling violent crime. Let us also, and to the general public, let's have a debate. Knee-jerk solutions does not even work. Let us look at issues surrounding violent crime, the death penalty, but it is the duty of the government as well, as the duty bearer, to make sure that they tackle violent crime. Of course, we as right holders, let's also make sure we train our kids. A lot of things have happened in this country. Absolutely. For the first time I hear the outlaws. Spinning and so that's why I said we have a societal problem from the home to the schools. Of course, and then the government also must come up with policies. So it's everybody's business that we tackle this issue. And at the level of the National Human Rights Commission, we will get the debate going, and we will come up with research studies, and we'll help the executive to come up with practical solutions.
It takes a village. Thank you very much. I'm Emmanuel Daniel Juve. I'm chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission. Thanks for explaining to us about the death penalty and the law.
Thank you.
Well, we've come to the end, viewers. Until next time, stay informed. Goodbye.